DC Comics were not the only publisher to release news that was somewhat interesting at New York Comic Con. Marvel also had a lot of announcements. Today I'm going to wrap up a lot of that stuff, led by, I guess, the return of Charles Soule, as well as Steve McNiven to Marvel Comics on a major project, featuring a character that certainly Charles Soule is known for, Daredevil, but he's also doing Vader, and then McNiven is also on the Daredevil book as well. And I know what a lot of you are thinking right now. You're like, what the fuck is with the hair, Wes? Why do you look like that? Now, I don't believe I look like a dandy, but I definitely look like a square right now because I'm having a bad hair day. This is what happened. So we had the typhoon that came through. We got electricity back. We've got the internet back. Life is almost back to normal. We do not have water back. And while we do have a supply of water here in the house, it is very, very limited. In one time, I was deployed in Afghanistan, and we used to take baby wipe showers. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm suffering a very bad hair day so that my children can take full baths and all that kind of stuff, because I've suffered through things of this nature before. So you're going to have to look at me looking stupid with this hairdo. Nothing I can do about it. Getting on to the news from Marvel. Daredevil Cold Day in Hell will mark Steve McNiven's first major Marvel Comics work in nearly a decade. Joining him is no stranger to Hell's Kitchen, Charles Soule, who had a long run on Daredevil in 2015. Cold Day in Hell is a bold vision of Daredevil in the same spirit as what McNiven did with Old Man Logan. Set in a Marvel Universe future on the brink of collapse, the series introduces a grizzled, older version of Matt Murdoch. Years into the future, a powerless Matt Murdoch is no longer Daredevil, but he's still the man without fear, doing whatever he can to help those in need in a city broken beyond repair. He'll finally be able to take the fight to where it matters most when something catastrophic happens, causing his powers to miraculously return. With no one by his side, Daredevil has little chance against the evil permeating every corner until Captain America entrusts him with a mission to safeguard the world's only hope. So there you go. Charles Soule returning to Daredevil. I don't think anybody really asked for this, but I don't think Charles Soule is a terrible Daredevil writer. He's not Mark Waid. Let's put it that way. As bad as some of the stuff Mark Waid's done, he's never done anything quite as bad as he did Daredevil. Worst Daredevil run probably in the history of the character. I would say Soule's run on Daredevil is more akin to what Saladin Ahmed is doing right now. Very, very forgettable. Trying to do stuff, none of it really hitting, easily ignored. But if you want to read Daredevil, you're not going to be completely turned off. That's my interpretation and my feeling about Charles Soule Daredevil. Now, Steve McNiven returning to an old man project has got my ears perked. Now, these guys have worked together before. They did do the Return of Wolverine miniseries. If you remember that nightmare, the P.F. Chang Wolverine with the hot claws. Oh, God, that was so bad. And also Steve McNiven doing the very first issue and the very last issue. Then Declan fucking Shalvey, one of the worst artists in the entire industry, doing the middle three. Oh, it is so bad. What an enormous turnoff to go from a legend, an absolute awesome comic book artist like Steve McNiven, all the way fucking down below the bottom floor into subterranean levels of comic book doofusry that is Declan Shalvey's attempts at being an artist. Hopefully that does not happen here, but I'll definitely read this. I do like old man stories sometimes. It's not my favorite trope, but it's not something that automatically turns me off. In fact, Old Man Hawkeye from about 6 years ago was when I discovered Marco Cicchetto as an artist, and that was a really good take. Ethan Sachs, I thought he was going to be kind of a bigger writer for Marvel, but it turned out he just had the one story in him that was good. Although his Star Wars Bounty Hunters wasn't bad. But he never really turned into what I think a lot of people thought he could. But a lot of times these old man whatever stories or old lady whatever stories are kind of boring and cliche. Hopefully that's not what this is. But the one saving grace is it will look great because it's Steve fucking McNiven returning to a major Marvel project. So I do find that very, very exciting. Cold Day in Hell, kind of stupid. They should just call it Old Man Daredevil. That way everyone knows exactly what it is. And, the big difference between Old Man Daredevil with Charles Soule and Old Man Logan, obviously, is Mark Miller, where you had like a really good premier writer. Charles Soule, if he ever was that, and I don't believe he ever was, I think he was just a steady hand that wasn't bad. Those days are well behind him. He actually hasn't written anything that I would consider good in like 4 or 5 years at this point. So don't expect much and appreciate the McNiven art, and it probably won't turn you off. Next up, Powerman Timeless will feature the older version of the character first introduced in the publisher's Timeless anthology, where Cage has the abilities of Sentry, Iron Fist, and Hulk, In addition to his own, Colin Kelly and Jackson Lanzig will pen the 5-issue limited series with art by Bernard Chang. He is unstoppable, indestructible, incorruptible, immortal, and utterly alone. He is Powerman, ripped from the breakout story in Timeless, the god-slaying, gamma-powered, iron-fisted sentry from the future. Luke Cage arrives in the modern Marvel Universe, only to discover a foe and mystery that will challenge even his incredible abilities. Man, I did not like the Timeless version of Luke Cage at all. And it was also written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lanzig, and maybe that's why it doesn't work, because you do have two just enormously untalented people that when they come together somehow become less talented. Normally, when you work together, you're greater than the sum of your parts, but not when Colin Kelly and Jackson Lanzig work together. They become somehow more incompetent and incapable of actually writing a good story. So do not expect anything out of this. If you're a Powerman fan, skip this. Go read real Powerman comic books. Go read Heroes for Hire or something actual worth your time, because this is guaranteed to be a shitstorm. If you are a Bernard Chang fan, and I imagine a lot of us are, because Bernard Chang is really, really good, this sucks. He should not be saddled with terrible creative like Colin Kelly and Jackson Lanzig. He deserves far better than that, but I'm glad he's getting a paycheck. Hopefully they gave him a really nice page rate, and the book will look good. It will just read like shit, because it's got two of the worst writers in the entire comic book industry. These guys are so bad that when I do my solicitation analysis for both Marvel and DC, when I see their names, I don't read the solicits anymore, because there's no chance in hell I would ever consider reading the comic book. And I read a lot of shitty comic books. That's how bad those guys are at this point. Let's get into some Star Wars news. I mentioned Charles Soule earlier. Star Wars Jedi Knights, Marvel's first series focusing on the Guardians of Peace and Justice in the Galaxy, will be brought to you by Emmy Award-winning screenwriter and acclaimed Star Wars comic writer Mark Guggenheim, and drawn by rising star artist Matabek Mazabekov. Taking place before the Phantom Menace, Star Wars Jedi Knights stars characters like Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Yoda, Count Dooku, Mace Windu, and many more. In addition to featuring iconic and fan-favorite Jedi duo, the series will introduce all new Jedi characters that served the Republic during the pivotal era. Each issue will spotlight a different Jedi duo on a different mission throughout the galaxy, but an overarching threat binds them together. Mark Guggenheim is not Colin Kelly and Jackson Lanzig, but he's not exactly memorable either. I've read a couple of his things, especially his Star Wars stuff at Marvel, and I never make it to issue 2. Not because he's like just terrible, because he's just so unmemorable. He brings nothing to the table when it comes to comic book writing. He brings no unique style or awesomeness. He doesn't really incorporate a lot of action into his stories, and you're just kind of left wanting at the end of it. So I don't particularly think really low of Guggenheim, but I don't think highly of him either. Don't know who the artist is. I like the prequels to a degree. I do. I think the biggest problem with the prequels was the direction from George Lucas, to be completely honest. I don't think he really wanted to be a film director at that point anymore. And I think he just wanted to highlight kind of all the CGI kind of stuff he could do. But there is kind of a cool story to the prequel trilogy that kind of makes sense. It should have been fleshed out better. I love Obi-Wan Kenobi. Qui-Gon is one of the better parts of the Phantom Menace. Count Dooku, kind of a lame name. Wish he wasn't human. Love seeing Yoda, but I also see what was the female version, Yoda or something like that? Whatever the girl version of Yoda was. Mace Windu. Obviously, everyone likes Samuel L. Jackson as Mace Windu. Doesn't exactly deliver his lines all that well, but he was memorable. He's the only guy with a purple lightsaber or whatever. So, hey, I'll check these out, even though I don't think Mark Guggenheim's going to do anything cool with them, because there is every chance in the world that it won't be terrible. And that would be an enormous step up for Marvel Comics' Star Wars line, which has been absolutely atrocious. Did you read the Steve Orlando Ewoks book? We didn't get gay Ewoks, and we didn't get transgender Ewoks, and we didn't get non-binary Ewoks. So I guess it was better than I anticipated, but not much. Let's put it that way. Why did they put Steve Orlando on a fucking Star Wars book? So that one, take it or leave it. If you like the prequel trilogy, you should probably check it out. It's guaranteed to be completely unoffensive, and that might be just what the doctor ordered when it comes to Star Wars these days. Another series also coming up. In order to let the past die, Kylo Ren has to confront it Witness the journey he took between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker in Star Wars Legacy of Vader from Charles Soule and Luke Ross. Kylo Ren is now leader of the First Order, but recent events, including his murder of his father, defeat at the hands of Luke Skywalker, and a surprising connection with the mysterious Ray Force, has him reckon with what it truly means to be Vader's heir as he pursues his dark mission to bring order to the galaxy. Kylo's madness takes him down a deadly path to discover the truth about his grandfather's life from Mustafar to Tatooine. These are the thrilling adventures that enabled Kylo to confront his inner turmoil and meet his destiny. Oh, man. There are so many Reylo fans that are wishing that they had never shipped that thing and they ended up putting it in the movie. And Rise of Skywalker was so bad. Oh, Kylo Ren sucks. And I don't even know if it was like the script or whatever. I think that just the concept of it was like the concept of a solo kid going rogue and being evil is actually pretty good. I'm reading Legacy of the Force right now. I think I'm on book 5 or 6. Whichever one's written by Karen Travis. That's the one I'm on. And I'm watching Jason Solo go to the dark side and maybe Ben Skywalker. Now, I don't believe that's going to happen, but it's actually pretty good. I don't think they ever got the concept of Kylo Ren and Ben Solo really right in that stupid sequel trilogy. And I think Adam Driver, and you might think he's a really good actor or whatever, just a terrible choice. Like his face is so weird. And even when he like takes the mask off, he becomes so much less intimidating. He probably never should have done that. And I legitimately cannot imagine any actual Star Wars fan wanting to know what happened between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. Who gives a flying fuck? That thing went down in a blaze of glory. It's one of the really true enormous turnoffs of Disney Star Wars is that all the stuff that we're like revisiting, you know, even if you go to the Acolyte and you liked it, it still all goes to The Rise of Skywalker. Who cares? Not worth investing in. That's how bad that stuff is. And it's just going to be Kylo Ren like on a Sith holocron quest, going around and seeing visions of his grandfather and learning lessons from him and stuff, which I've read a book like that too. The Darth Bane trilogy was kind of cool. But Kylo Ren was never cool. He wasn't Bane. You know what I mean? No, he's not even Jason Solo. He just kind of fucking sucks. And I don't know why they continue to try and make this a thing. But I guess they're going to keep going. This is the book that Charles Soule deserves. You know, when he did his Vader run, which is really, really fucking good. Charles Soule's Darth Vader, I think it's 19 issues. Really, really good, solid Darth Vader writing. But when he came back to like kick off the High Republic stuff, I know he did a novel. He was the guy in charge of basically all the Star Wars comic books for the last 3 or 4 years. He just sucked. And so he deserves this shitty character after ruining Star Wars for 3 or 4 fucking years straight when it comes to Marvel comic books. So would not touch that with a 10-foot pole, even though I guarantee you we're going to see lots of Vader like fucking images and probably some backstory and stuff like that. But the fact that Kylo Ren's face is ever going to be in it, and it'll likely be in there a lot, makes me never want to fucking read the thing. Finally, Marvel Holiday Tales to Astonish will be a special one-shot featuring 3 heartwarming, inspirational, and action-packed stories starring characters from Jerry Duggan, Daniel Kibblesmith, and Gene Yang. The first story sees the Fantastic Four throwing a holiday party when an uninvited guest decides to spread doom instead of cheer. Next, Uncanny X-Men's Kitty Pryde saves the day while shopping for gifts for her new teammates in a special Hanukkah story. Lastly, Spider-Man finds out if he can stick to his New Year's resolution as well as he sticks to walls in a story that sees both Peter Parker and Miles Morales in the new year, ring in the new year on an adventure together. So, out of the 3, Gene Yang, Kibblesmith, and Jerry Duggan, I would say Gene Yang's the better writer, but he's not particularly great. Jerry Duggan, on his worst days, is awful, and probably even worse than Kibblesmith, but on his best day, which he doesn't achieve all that often, he's pretty darn good. But more than likely, this is going to be awful, and then obviously Daniel Kibblesmith is Daniel Kibblesmith in the New Warriors. Remember his interview? He's like, oh, that cover scared me because there's a black character on it. Like, hope there's no black characters in there. He's going to be afraid to write the goddamn thing. It's going to be $10. It's not going to be worth your time or money. It'll be another throwaway anthology book for Marvel or DC. So it's going out there if you want a holiday special. I personally wouldn't recommend it. I won't be reading it myself. I won't even act like it exists. But it is out there if you're interested. And that will wrap up the Marvel coverage of New York Comic Con. Not a lot of big things going out there, but there was some news there. Do appreciate you stopping by. If you like what I'm doing here, providing you full coverage of comic book news and happenings that are going on, plus some levity and an honest opinion about how comic books are doing and what they could do better, I do invite you to visit me on Think Critical Patreon. That's how you can support Think Critical YouTube. There's a link in the video description. Lots of tiers, lots of podcasts, extra videos, all that kind of stuff. Hope to see you there very, very soon.